Welcome to Ask Me When It's Over, a video series where I look back at my 30-plus year career and share insights and experiences. The name of the series comes from a response I would often give when I was busy with kids and travel and full-time jobs, and people would say, "How do you do it?" And I'd say, "I don't know. Ask me when it's over." There's an introduction video that explains more about my background and why I'm doing the series, but in short, I see it as a way of giving back and mentoring virtually. We'll cover topics like work-life balance, people management, project management, organizational change, and even working in a regulated industry. Now, today's topic is an organizational change topic, and specifically about planning for change. Now, they say the only thing constant is change, but it's remarkable how often we are surprised by change, or more specifically, surprised by our reaction to change. Now, you could be in a meeting and there could be someone that has an angry outburst, and you can easily judge them as, "Oh, what's wrong with them? Why are they so angry?" But it frankly might just be a normal reaction to a change. Or you might see someone who seems really unmotivated and lackadaisical, and you know that's just not them. And you're wondering, is there something I can say or do to help? Well, there might be, and this is true in both your personal and your professional life, but we're going to focus on the professional settings of handling and planning for change. Now, there are many books and methods out there about helping people through change, and I'm going to share and highlight some that I found most valuable. But the point actually isn't the specific methods. The point is that you can do more to make yourself aware of what to expect and how to anticipate how people are going to react to change, and then maybe take some actions and plan some things that could really help. Now, there's a lot of proven psychology about how people handle change, and one example that many people are familiar with is the grieving cycle. And it was made famous by a Swiss psychiatrist, Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, back in 1969. She published a book called On Death and Dying. And actually in the book, she identifies about 13 stages of grief, but most people are aware of the 5 main ones, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Now, it's important to emphasize, and even she highlights, that these stages don't necessarily go in order, and people can slip back and forth between them, and not everyone experiences all stages, and there's no right way to go through change or grief. But it's more that it helps you recognize when people are in these stages and to know that it's normal and that maybe there's something you can do to at least acknowledge it or to respect the stage they're in as they go through it. Grief can occur not only when someone dies, but when you lose anything of value to you. And in a professional setting, that could be, when you're laid off or when your company's sold, or even when you change bosses if it's someone you really cared about. And a change reaction can happen not only for negative changes, but for positive things. Even things like, going off to college or getting married or having children or buying a house, they can all trigger similar change reactions. So, for example, imagine you're a team leader in a company where the company's being sold. You could plan to meet one-on-one with each of your team members and give them a safe place to vent their anger. But then you do have to truly make it a safe place for them to vent their anger and not hold anything they say against them. Now, we're in cases where I've done this because I've been involved in many companies being sold and been a team member in those cases and a leader in those cases. And where I've sat down with team members and given them that safe place to vent, I've also clarified that I'm trying to give you this space to vent, and I'm asking you to not express these things in some of these same angry ways in meetings or in front of others, where they can actually be more career damaging and it can trigger responses in others. But to do that, it at least lets them know that this is normal, it's safe, they are understood, and they are supported. Now I'm going to highlight some of the tools and methods and resources that I found most valuable in my career. And the first is this book called Managing at the Speed of Change by Daryl Conner. I believe it was published in the early 1990s, but I discovered it in the late 1990s. In fact, I think I know this because I've got a business card taped to the front from a job I had around that time. Now, my version of the book is full of yellow highlights and little stickers and flags. And one of the highlights that I wanted to read that really hits the heart of this whole change topic is that it says, "Let us not forget that at the heart of the matter are real people with real feelings." And that is probably the most critical things to understand during helping people through change is people aren't just cogs in a wheel that you can just treat like robots of here, we are making a change. You should now just be ready to perform at your peak performance of that change, even if it's completely different than what you've dealt with before. People are the most important resource that you're going to work with in any project that you undertake, and you have to treat them as people and engage both their hearts and their minds. Now, this book talks about the resilience of change and the speed of change. It addresses structure, behavior cycles, culture. It shows how change is a process, and it has all kinds of graphics, and including some really great stuff about the cycles that people will go through. But I just found it incredible. Another method I found very valuable in my career is something called the change cycle. This was developed by Anne Salerno and Lily Brock, and it depicts 6 change stages that people go through, and it actually says that they go through them in this order. And this is something that was formally used at a company that I worked for when we were going through a really major change. As managers, we got trained in it, and they reinforced it by talking about it in meetings and asking what stage you were at and what stage you thought your teams were at and what were you doing and what were you planning to make it better. And seeing it used in that way really cemented my appreciation for organizational change in projects, because to see that you can really plan for this, can see that it makes the project go smoother and actually helps people through the change in a much more effective way. Now, this specific method not only talks about stages, but it gives you tools of what you can do to acknowledge where people are in the change process, what you can do to challenge and help them move on, key questions you can ask, and even exit strategies for helping people get out of certain stages. And on the back of this particular card, there's also a big list of what you can expect to see and hear, and things you can do to both help yourself and others through the change, and then things to watch for. To this day, I still have this pinned on my corkboard right above my desk, and I refer to it often. When I'm experiencing change symptoms or I'm witnessing change behavior on projects, I refer to it and remind myself, okay, what stage might they be at? What are some things I can maybe do? And what are some actions I can maybe take? In every episode, I like to leave you with an activity, something to think about or do related to the topic. So for today, I'd like you to think back on a big change you went through professionally. It could be a positive change, like a promotion, or it could be something you perceived as negative, like losing your job, or a big change to your company being sold, or maybe losing a boss or a good colleague. Now look back at that experience, and do you recognize any stages that you went through? It might be the grieving cycle stages, or it might be from some other method. And did you notice, was your leadership doing anything kind of proactively, or your HR department, to help you through the change? Or were you all just left on your own? And by chance, did you notice any change methods being used anywhere? Or maybe you were one of the lucky ones who got formal training, and you got training in a method and you saw it being used. And if so, I'd love to hear about that. When regardless of that, have you done any research on your own or looked up any resources of organizational change and gotten yourself aware of what these changes are and these methods and anything you can do to plan for them? So your homework, if you choose to accept it, is to look into some organizational change resources and identify some that resonate with you. Again, it's not so important of what method it is and what stages you choose. There's no right one, but just get to know some of the processes, and so that you know what to expect as normal, so that you can plan for it and help people through the change and help yourself through the change. And you'll be able to identify some actions that the next time you're on a project, whether it's something you're leading or something you're experiencing, that you can help yourself and others navigate the change more effectively. Well, that's it for today's episode of Ask Me When It's Over. Please leave a comment and let me know of any questions or future ideas for topics. And be sure to click subscribe and the notification bell so you're made aware when future episodes come out. And we'll see you next time on Ask Me When It's Over.